in New York, and you were wondering if they actually officially put it into effect, but New York has actually now banned discrimination of all things based on just height and weight. Which, hey, you know what? I am 6'5", and I've been in New York for a lot of time for work back when I worked for another company. I think I was there for I think I was there for 2 months maybe at a time throughout the winter. And I have to say, it's not made for people who are 6'5", all right? New York is not made for tall people. So maybe I should go back, pick up a couple extra bucks when I can't fit into one of those bodegas. Bodegos, what are they called?
Yeah, bodegas. That's the one thing this law is going to set up is thousands of frivolous lawsuits. That's the only thing. So obviously the lawyers were in charge of making sure this is not true. That's the only people that are going to benefit from this whole thing.
So there it says, New York City law that bans discrimination against someone because of their height or weight went into effect last week, 6 months after Mayor Eric Adams first signed the legislation. So I didn't even hear he signed it before. I guess just now that's going to affect, everyone's now hearing about it, probably because there started to be a slew of lawsuits. That'd be my guess.
So the first thing you should do is go find the closest theme park, and you're not going to let me ride this roller coaster, or I'm going to sue.
Oh, I mean, what I can't find this coaster. Short? What do you mean this coaster could decapitate me if I hop on? Why can't I ride the Scooby-Doo at, what is it? Is it King's Dominion that has a Scooby-Doo coaster? Or is it Six Flags?
I'm not sure. No, it was King's Dominion, but I'm not sure if that's what it's still called, because they lost their Hanna-Barbera.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And went to
All
Point.
I know
it's probably like the Snoopy Express or something now, because it's Cedar Point.
All I know is last time I rode that Scooby-Doo coaster, wherever it's called now, I put my hands up during one of those drops, and my fingers actually hit one of the bars that were on there. And after that, I said, I'm never riding that coaster again. And I think I gained a few inches since then, so I'll be terrified to hop on. And ever since then, I'm not sure if you ever noticed, but if we ever rode older wooden coasters together, if we go under the bridge portions there, I usually kind of still duck my head a little bit and put my hands down. Because it hurt. It smacked and it really hurt.
Yeah, I've never had the problem of being tall enough, but I still do this when it gets to those overhangs.
Was it some of those inside coasters? I'm always just kind of like, yay! Don't hit my head.
And until you figure out where the camera is, and then
it's yay! What was it? We did the Top Thrill Dragster, 120 miles per hour. We're sitting there going.
After the first time, we were like pinned back to the chair. But once you figure it out, it's all right.
So yeah, if whatever theme parks might be
lawsuits over this. So I mean, obviously we don't agree with discrimination against anyone. That we don't think anyone should be discriminated against, right?
Yeah.
But how can this be even proven?
Well, I will say this.
What situation was this going to come up where it's going to affect somebody?
So first off, I'll ask this because I know where I stand. So where I stand on the whole discrimination lawsuits in general is that you shouldn't discriminate against anyone, right? I think we both agree on that one. But I really don't think there should be laws about it. My whole thing is that if I walk into a store and they say, you're white and you're a Christian, get out. To me, it seems kind of wrong for me to then call the government and have them put a gun to the guy's head and say, serve this man or else. It just really, I know people don't like the whole gun analogy, but I kind of think Penn Jillette was kind of right when he said every law at the end of the day is enforced through violence, no matter how petty the law is. So when you're talking about discrimination laws, I don't know, it almost seems like another form of slavery when someone who doesn't want to serve me when it comes to their business is forced at gunpoint to serve me. So,
and at what point does our constitutional right of association come into play?
Yes, you have the right to freely associate. If I don't want to associate with you, that shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't matter what it is. I mean, it should matter on a moral level. If we see someone who says, I'm not going to spend time with that person because they're black, or I'm not going to allow them inside my business because they're Hispanic, we obviously aren't going to go shopping at that place because we don't like that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day,
wouldn't it be better to have that out in the public so we all know that? And
I think one of the best things I heard was, why would you want to give money to someone who hates you anyway? If you think about it, we cancel businesses if we find out they're racist, sexist, whatever you want to say these days. So why wouldn't you want them to be open about it? Like, isn't that a
So
good thing?
did you see the article that just came out that said Yelp reviews that state that restaurants and other businesses are racist are actually seeing upticks in business?
Oh, that is so hysterical. Well, because today, what does racist even mean, unfortunately, right? Like, I know it sounds like really kind of cringy to say, oh, we both have black friends, but like we both know plenty of black people, and we've heard their stories of like actual cases of racism that's happened to them, and they're terrible,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like, there's some awful stories that I'm pretty sure you've probably heard from people you know, and I know some terrible stories from people who I know. So like, we're definitely, none of that's okay, but they're not talking about cases like that. They're talking about the people who put up like posters saying it's okay to be white and then saying this is a terrible racist incident or all lives matter, right? They called that sort of stuff racist. So what does it even mean anymore?
As long as you don't say it's okay to be Irish.
Yes, we'll get to that in a minute. Oh man, I just love how they're just again turning it on its head, right? Exactly as they should do it.
Okay,
But
so every time I see this whole thing about it's not okay to be Irish, apparently, it takes me straight to Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles.
Okay, we'll take the Irish too.
So you were wondering like how do you even prove like discrimination on like weight or height or any of that stuff? Down here, one of the things they said was body size discrimination affects millions of people every year, contributing to harmful disparities in medical treatment and outcomes. So basically, there's one if you might have an issue and they tell you, hey, you should probably lose weight, and it turns out like you had cancer or something like that, then I guess they'll say that, hey, that was them discriminating against me based on my weight. They didn't put me through all the tests. Even though if you can't rule out the most basic cause of your problems before you get to the big problems, then you're just spending way too much money. I mean, the healthcare system couldn't withstand that. But, medical treatment outcomes, blocking people access from opportunities and employment. I mean, something tells me if you went to apply as a firefighter as a 300-pound person, it's not going to go well.
No,
Housing and public accommodations, and deepening existing injustices that people face. So, of course, vague comments there, right?
Yeah, well, so I think.
I mean, you're telling me this person right here has probably, faced some major discrimination in their life, I'm sure.
I think people who are follically challenged should be listed on this as well.
Here.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
You know what the funny thing is you really can't help if you lose your hair, but you can help being fat. Is what I don't get. You can help whether or not you put down the fork or not. Was it the Zig Ziglar quote where he says, for a good part of my life, I chose to be over 200 pounds. And I say I chose to be because I never remember accidentally eating anything.
I think he said he was decidedly overweight.
Decidedly overweight.
But yeah, it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. And you can't even say that it's calories in, calories burned, calories out. You can't say things like that because that's discrimination now.
Oh, well, here's the thing right here. Science has shown that body type is not a connection to if you're healthy or unhealthy, said Adams, who, of course, authored a book about losing 35 pounds. I love this whole health. Let's face it, all this stuff, right? For the most part, is this not just a continuation of what started probably a lot with my generation of trying to push responsibility away from ourselves as much as possible, right? It's saying, I don't want to look inward and blame myself.
It's the downfall of our society, James. we the people have ceded all of our responsibility to others because taking responsibility is hard.
Yeah, well,
saving for retirement is hard. Let's let the government create a Ponzi scheme to do it. Handling my health is hard. Well, let's let them create a healthcare thing to handle it for us. We cede all of our responsibilities. Taking care of my neighbor is hard.
Well, I said this back when I was in school.
Let's look for the most inefficient, expensive, and illegal in a lot of cases, and corrupt way to possibly get it done, which is the government at any level, because bureaucracy is just not the efficient way to get any of this done. Well, it's a problem, James. We cede all of our responsibilities.
Well, I talked about this in high school where, like, I got bullied a decent amount in high school. Admittedly, how I was back then, I probably deserved it. I'm not going to lie. But, the option was always tell a teacher, tell a principal. Never handle it yourself. Always have someone else handle it for you. And I said, even back when I was in high school, this is clearly them basically conditioning you from, about 5 years old or so to always look to a higher authority to solve your problems for you rather than dealing with your problems yourself. School is a big factor in this, obviously, and it is a big factor in almost everything going on wrong, in my opinion. But when it comes to stuff like this, it is the cause of things like this because it's taught people, especially in my generation, not to take any responsibility for what we do, and instead always, if we see anything going wrong, always look to some higher force to handle it. Don't handle it yourself.
No.
Find that higher force to handle it for you.
They don't want citizens. They want drones.
Now, you mentioned before we even started this, you're mentioning how you had a road to serfdom, I think you said, behind you. They want serfs.
Yeah,
it's funny. You have that. I over here have free to choose. So I guess that's a pretty good pair, right?
I'm a big Milton Friedman fan. But you said I was giving you these books pretty early. That's where you colored on my book when you were really little.
So what you're saying is I need to go ahead and give Junior a copy of 12 Rules for Life and just let him kind of do whatever.
It's never too early to start
actually,
talking about these things.
Mention 12 Rules for Life. That actually does still tie into this in a little bit. Jordan Peterson talks about the fact of how, have all these people, especially, again, my generation more than any other. I think Gen Z probably even more than my generation, actually. They don't feel like they have any meaning in their lives anymore whatsoever. And one thing Jordan Peterson actually talks a lot about is how people find meaning through responsibility, not happiness, right? That happiness, it's fleeting. If you make your goal happiness, then you're always going to be disappointed because eventually everyone you know is going to die, all right? You're not going to be very happy then, now are you? So if that is your goal in life, it's not going to work out for you because bad things will always end up happening. But if your goal is responsibility and actually finding true meaning through that, well then if bad things happen, so be it. You still have something in your life worth fighting for.
So the key is to finally determine what your purpose is and then start living into that purpose.
Yes.
And that'll give it meaning. That'll give you the happiness you're looking for. Happiness, the way the world's going to teach it and the way society wants you to get it is fleeting if you get it at all. And one of the big problems, James, is, and this, is just there's no core anymore. There's no church, the family unit. All these things have been destroyed through leftist politics, and it's killing the heart of a nation.